bars in a raid. Man, I go hard like Santan.
Yo, people, one and all, it's your boy SV Carbaholic, and I'm back on hosting duty. Yes, back with you, another weekly edition of TG TouchlineGunners on deck. So good to have you here. If you're a weekly listener, we appreciate you. If you're a patron, we appreciate you. If you're not a patron, you better tell a friend to tell a friend, because you're missing out. On Monday, myself and Cougs, we did a post-match of the 2-0 victory at home to West Ham at the weekend, so we're not really going to dwell on that too much tonight. So if you want to get your little fix of that, there's me and Cougs did a nice review of that, so go and check that out. You can sign up for as little as £3 a month on Patreon. We do also have another TG patron piece coming up on Friday, a TG quiz as well. So really and truthfully, if you want the extra content to feed you, because I'll be real, it's crickets out there over this international break. Sign up. We're giving you manual fix. But for those who are not, and just weekly listeners, we appreciate you, and we're still going to give you a little piece of content today. And with me to discuss all things Arsenal FC is Dr. Umar's apprentice himself. Khalil, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm not sure how I've become the apprentice, but it is what it is. I'll take the labels that people give to me.
Yeah, good stuff. I think I wanted to start here, and we can talk on this and see how we go. Yeah, so we've played 7 games now. So obviously we're still, long way to go in the league. 31 games to go. We've had 2 Champions League games, both of them victories, 4 goals, none conceded. We are through to the 4th round of the League Cup after a 2-0 victory away. Bro, I'll be real, yeah, we just keep bare clean sheets. I'm not even going to lie to you, bro. more time, bro. There's just bare O's, bro. I love it. More of that. So after the first international break, obviously, we were coming off the back of a 1-0 defeat at Anfield to Liverpool. And at the time we were all a bit, we questioning the approach from Arteta in that game, and weren't particularly happy. I mean, to be fair, it's not like it was a bad performance. It was just a game that was decided by a wonder goal, and it is what it is. But I remember after that there were a few questions. So I guess to you now, 7 games later in all comps, in the last block of 6, since the last block of 7, I beg your pardon, since the last international break, we've won 6 and drawn 1. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the only goals we've conceded were Haaland and Walter Made. So, and only one of them was from open play. But in that time, we've beaten Forest 3-0 at home. We've beaten West Ham 2-0 at home. We drew 1-1 at home with Man City. We did win 2-1 at St James's Park. And obviously in between that as well, we've won we beat Bilbao 2-0 away in the Champions League. We beat Olympiacos 2-0 at home in the Champions League, and Port Vale 2-0 away. So yeah, that block of 7, 6 wins, 1 draw, really, really good return. Only 1 goal conceded in open play, only 2 goals conceded generally. How are you feeling now compared to where you were at the start? Just your general feelings. We'll get on to maybe what we think we've done well and what we could potentially improve. But just how are you feeling now at this October international break?
Feeling very positive as to what this season could potentially mean for us. I think when you've sort of listed out the progression of our season so far, there's been, I would say, a lot of uncertainty. I think if you remember how the Eze deal happened after the season had already begun, we were still all sort of trying to figure out what is the final iteration of this squad going to be, who's going to be moved on. We also had, the signings that are already here. We were kind of eager to see how they were going to bed in and start. I'm sure, obviously, we'll get into guys like Gyökeres later, but I think because of how much business we had done in the summer, I think there's just been there was a lot of curiosity to see how that all is going to come together. And when you look at the relatively difficult fixture list, there were always going to be challenges. And again, I was very curious to see how we would perform and if those performances would translate into results. Now that we've gone through that initial difficult period, because there will be more challenges ahead, I think we can definitely look back on how the season has progressed so far and feel like we're in a good place to then kick on and improve and get better. You're always trying to weigh up the efficiency of results versus performances. These are constant debates that we have in the group chat. But when you look at, what was it, 16 out of 21 points, undefeated in the cup competition so far, it's pretty much as good as you can get it without it being an unbeaten season. You reference the frustration around the City game. You reference the frustration around the Liverpool game. Of course, I think a big concern for many of us was our levels of open play chance creation. And then some people argue that it's overblown. And for some of us, we feel definitely more comfortable and more secure about how the team performs based upon how often we're able to create. Because defensively, I haven't even mentioned it yet, but the obvious thing is we are such a strong defensive team, both as individuals and as a collective. So you're just waiting for that click, click, as Cristiano said. Like, you're just waiting for it to come together, and then you feel as if you've got the makings of a team that can go on and do big things. So to answer your question, I think we're in a good place. There's definitely much more to come from individuals. There's much more to come from the team. And I think the one game I'd look to so far as like the reference game for potential what we can do this season is definitely the Newcastle game. The context of where it came, the fact it was after the City game and Liverpool game, the two other quote unquote huge games with teams on our level, and the, I think, justified complaints we had as to the manner in which we approached those games, to go to a bogey team and to get the win, and the manner in which we did. We were the better team. We created many chances that we should have taken, and we came away with the last minute win. Like, psychologically, that's a huge thing. So yeah, I think, to answer the question, I think positive. There's definitely a lot of positives to take, and I think this is sort of the platform to base the rest of the season on. We see the ingredients are there. It's about sort of bringing them together and, getting good luck and hoping that our squad stays healthy and so on and so forth. But the ingredients are definitely there for a really, really big season ahead.
Yeah, good stuff. I don't disagree too much. I'm with you. I feel like we're in a good place. Like, potentially, maybe even the international break came at a wrong time for us, because when you've got that momentum going, you kind of want to keep that building right as well. So I always looked at it as a block, and I saw the first 6 games of the season. And I was like, Old Trafford away, Anfield away, St James's Park away, City at home. 4 of the first 6, like, these men want us dead. Like, they legit want us dead. So how I took it, I was like, I think after the first 6 before we played West Ham, I was always kind of like, if we're just within a couple points off the top, I think we're in a good place. The fact that we've now ended ahead of this international break, top of the table, is good, like, is legit good. And I think based on performances, they've not all been great. I'd actually say the worst performance we've had this season was probably the first day of the season at Old Trafford, right, where we actually deserved to lose that game. That generally wasn't a good performance. But even at Anfield, we weren't great, but Liverpool weren't great. Like, realistically, I think Slot was right. You play that game 10 times out of 10, it's 0-0. Like, 8 times out of 10, mate, they got that win that time. Maybe we sneak on margins win another time, but really and truthfully, that was a 0-0 game. So in my mind, obviously hindsight, we should probably still be unbeaten. The City game, it's you can look at it from both sides. Like, it's, I know people are like with the Marino stuff, and I'm definitely there, like, as they should have started. But on the flip side, and especially when you've seen John Stones' comments this week, right? City couldn't do, like, they were shook. Like, I think they tried everything in the book. So it's kind of like a praise to, like, keep a Pep Guardiola side not to be able to do anything against you, but maybe we just didn't do enough overall, and that's probably the regret that we had from that game. But when I look at everything holistically, to be top after 7 games, you said it's 16 points, right? So 16 points, 16 from 21. 5 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat. I'll take that. We're in a decent position. So I guess slightly moving on then, like, we can come to some positives generally. Like, from your perspective, what do you think has really worked well? I think an obvious for me is that we already knew we had the strongest defense in this league, and that's pretty much continued. You know, I think the recruits, Mosquera, I got to give him his props. I think he's looked a really, really top signing. When you think of the fact we signed him for £13 million, there are teams that are paying bums like 30, 40 mil plus. Well, put it this way: when you look at the problems Liverpool are having, there's an argument Mosquera could start right now ahead of Konate. He would walk into the Chelsea backline. He would walk into the Man United backline, and there's maybe there's a toss up at City with Vardio and Diaz, but he'd have an argument. He'd be well within there, right? So I think we've seen a potential top young talent for 30 mil 21, and you saw when even that game, like when Saliba was out, like legit nobody was panicking. No. You know how many times in previous seasons Saliba's been out, man are on the floor, like legit, like so. That's real props to the recruitment, but also just the player himself. He's come in and he's not looked he's not looked raw at all, at all. So, and even when he came off, against Newcastle, we brought Saliba for the second half. I thought it was a bit harsh. Like I didn't think he did a great deal wrong, but obviously, like it is what it is. So, so the defense, I think, tick by the box. Like we look so almost like I was talking to one West Ham fan at the Emirates at the weekend. He was like, bro, when Arsenal score, I feel like the game's just done, it was like, bro, like we're so stringent in terms of giving. I think West Ham had 3, maybe 4 shots all game. 0 on target. Like that was it. So
they didn't get to 1 XG, I don't think. No.
That's great. And I think another positive for me, so I'll say the defense. Another positive for me is being able to, because I thought the Newcastle game last weekend was a top performance, proper, and we had to work our socks off to get that W. But I thought the Olympiacos and West Ham games, we almost won in second gear. And I feel that's a really good quality to have, because when you play every 3 days, the reality is you're not going to play well every 3 days, right? Like you're going to have, so being able to win games when there's little, like I know some people said that the game at the weekend against West Ham was quite boring. I don't give a damn, boy. If you can reel off like consistent 2-3-0 wins, like, and it is boring and zero jeopardy, especially when you're seeing the amount of drama and basketball that's happening in Liverpool games, give me that 2-0 boring every week, bro. like obviously from an entertainment standpoint, maybe one game every now and then, like you have like the Newcastle game was like that. But bro, if you're chalking off 2-0 wins like every 3 days, you're happy as Harry. So I think secondly, the ability to win games when you're not at your best consistently and still look like you've got stuff in reserve. So that's another tick. So I'd have defense, being able to win games comfortably without being at the best. And thirdly, and for me, most importantly, especially since the Newcastle game, the improvement. I mean, I had started to see this from the start of preseason, but I think, and I'm going to sort of veer into like a Zubimendi sort of propaganda here, like the increased verticality and, open play chance creation, of which I think he is a big part of. I thought he was man of the match, even though he didn't start against West Ham at the weekend when he came on. And I know we've been having little tussles because everyone, and I'm sure, I don't actually know what camp you're in, but everyone bar Lewis has been very, very pro Mendy. So, and this is coming from me. I'll be honest with you. When he was at Sociedad, I wasn't keen, but the more I started to watch him over time, saw him for Spain, and then I saw him in pre-season fast, and I'm like, no, this guy's legit. He's a proper player. I think what I really like about Zubimendi is that it's very automatic with him. He doesn't take too many touches of the ball. It's in, it's out. And obviously, while he's not the best athlete, he's still quite tenacious in tight spaces as well. So I really, really like that approach. So I think he's been very, very pivotal in some of the improvement in open play chance creation as well. Obviously, we've had, I thought there's some games where we've allowed the wingers to be a bit narrow. So we've had quite a narrow front attacking line. Obviously, even when we do have, because we tried, with Eze and Ødegaard at the start, so that pushed the wingers back wide. But it's good to have that tactical variety as well. So I think those are the 3 things for me that are the real positives. But what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel as if we're going to repeat a lot of what you said. But I think for one, the summer business or the strategic decisions that have been made by the club seem to really be the correct ones. And that is always difficult to judge. Even at this early, point in the season, there's still a lot to go. There's still a lot can happen. But the fact that they have decided to go down the route of, 4, 5, 6 players as opposed to maybe what some people would have wanted, which was potentially try and blow the budget on Isak and worrying about what's left. When you see the amount of physical exertion that the players are need to go through, and you already see the injuries that are happening elsewhere, when you can bring in guys like Mosquera, as you referenced, into the first team, and we don't really miss a beat, I think it's credit to the scouts, and it's also credit to the manager, because I'm going to tie this in. The manager has seemed a lot more willing to rotate, and that's been a big criticism of all of us. Like, we feel as if when Arteta gets a preferred lineup, he just sticks with it until a couple of games when there's a bit of like a few negative results, and maybe see a change. So he has been proactive in using the squad that he's been given, which I think bodes very well. Because the way I see it is, when you get to the business end of the season, you don't want to be throwing in people cold. You want guys who have had, relatively, consistent minutes and be able to contribute.
Also, just on that point, sorry, I'll let you finish as well. When you get to the business end of the season, and this is one thing I've always noticed with Pep as well, like Pep's players always tend to be fresher towards the end of the season because he spent a lot of the season rotating. So even if he then wants to pick maybe from March onwards a consistent team, they don't have the same minutes in their legs. Whereas you get to like Feb, March, and like Saka's cooked because like there's been little rest. And obviously part of that was maybe we didn't have the depth that we do now, like as in like legit Arsenal's depth is brazy. And I know a lot of people comment on it, but it's generally brazy. There's so many options. And I think it's incumbent on the manager to use it, one, to keep the squad fresh, but also to keep players involved, because you have to. When you've got a big squad like that, you have to utilize it. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of disgruntled people who are not playing.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's not just about the new guys that will come in. It's about the guys who are already there and have kind of been given a new lease of life, because the best example of that is Martinelli. He's had 2 huge contributions already this season in a way that I don't think many people were predicting at the start of the season. You look at how he came into the City game and scored, the all-important equalizer. You look how he came into the Bilbao game and, got the goal and the assist. Like, so it's not just about the new guys coming in and having an impact, which they have, and we're happy that they have, but it's also how it raises the levels amongst the guys who are already there, and the fact that we've got different profiles in the squad as a result of how the squad has been built. So, and Arteta using that squad is a very, very big plus for me. So I think the first thing is definitely that the direction that Berta and Arteta took this summer seems to be the right path to take, and it bodes well for the rest of the season, injury permitting. 2 is Arteta's rotation. I was really encouraged by the lineup against West Ham, not because I'm one of these people who said that we have to play Eze and Odegaard together, although I definitely want to see it. I just like that the manager's approaching different midfield constructions, because it just provides us with so much more tactical flexibility. You mentioned Zubimendi. Zubimendi has been very good. But one thing that we already commented on is when we looked at the way Zubimendi played in pre-season, some of us even said, do we have like a single point of failure here? Because if Zubimendi's out, does that mean Norgard comes in? What are we going to do? But we've already seen, a Declan Rice 6 with Eze and Odegaard ahead. So again, it gives you confidence that the manager has different ways of approaching problems, either as a result of our squad injuries or as a result of the opposition that we're playing. So I think that's definitely a plus point. I think another thing is, I want to touch on Eze in this regard, but the flexibility attacking combination that he provides is so crucial. When we signed Gyökeres, and I was someone who was obviously a supporter of Gyökeres over Sesko, my thing was always Gyökeres himself. I don't believe him to be the guy's going to come in and be like this transformative figure alone. He's definitely going to help, but we needed another link in our attack who will accentuate someone like Gyökeres' strengths, because I still felt as if at that time we lacked an on-ball creator in the final third. We lacked an on-ball creator centrally as well as out wide. And you need the technical level to balance out with maybe someone like Gyökeres or even Havertz's technical deficiencies in that regard. And we've seen how Eze's been used. He's been used centrally, he's been used out wide, he's been used on the right side of midfield, and it just really unlocks another level. Like, you see the small touches, you see the way he receives the ball on the half turn, is able to shimmy. And at least my third point, which you've already touched upon, is central access. Like, we can see how we are able to access central zones a lot easier with the combination of Zubimendi, with a rejuvenated Odegaard, with Eze. And it opens up so much for us, because if we are going to create chances, we need to be able to create them from various angles. We know we're a great set piece team. We know that we have a great winger in Saka. We know that we've got Martinelli and Trossard on the side who can contribute in various ways. But in my opinion, and you've said this many times, when you're able to impact central areas, you're able to sort of bring the opposition defense in a way that they leave gaps either out wide, or they're having to compensate out wide and it leaves gaps through the middle. You can see underlaps. You've seen Calafiori pick up many spaces on the edge of the box in order to create, shooting opportunities. So for me, that is very, very, very encouraging. It doesn't necessarily mean that all these performances have had all of these ingredients together, but to me, it shows that there's definitely potential for like our attacking combination to improve. And the fact that Arteta is willing to try out these different combinations is a really, really big plus for me. So for one, the squad, the squad recruitment choices, I think there's a big plus, because if we had signed Isak for 125 and maybe one other, I don't think we'll be seeing Mosquera. I don't think we'll be seeing, Hincapi after the international break. And you've already seen like how much of the squad we need to use. So I think one, the squad choices, two, the rotations, and three, the central access, especially attacking wise, because it just opens up another dynamic for us. And when you watch the West Ham game, we got comfortably 2 XG, like easily, and we left a lot more on the table. Better execution with Gyökeres, better execution with Gyökeres in some quarters. Better execution on the edge of the box from this, that, and the other. And there's even more to be had. So I think those are the things that really leave me encouraged. And injury permitting as well, because you can't factor in for that. There are all the ingredients for us to really, really push and do something really big this season.
Yeah. And let's do some. So whilst we've been effusive with our praise, let's do some negatives. And to be fair, I actually don't really have. I've got two, right? So yours might differ to mine. So first thing I'll say is injuries. So even though like we have the bigger squad, it still seems like we seem to pick up almost like an injury a game. Like, and thankfully, obviously, we're at a period where we have so many players that it's not really taking its toll yet. And like even against West Ham, right? You had Martinelli, you had Ethan, you had Zubamendi, you had Marino, you had Norgard, Lewis Skelly, White. So the bench was still peak, and Mosquera. So the bench was still very, very peak. But I just don't think we can keep doing that. One, because I want us to challenge on all fronts, and I think we have the squad now to be able to compete across all fronts. But two, there are still, I'd say, I feel like if we had potentially like a Zubamendi injury, I don't think that one would go down well, because he's been a key for us. I'd say, that one, I have to touch wood, bro, because Raya is someone man's not trying to see, bro, like get injured at all. Like,
I forgot who that people was.
Kepa.
Kepa. God damn, I'm not trying to see that.
Yeah. So you can kind of see that, and also, and pretty much everywhere else, we seem to be pretty much all right. If someone goes down, we can maybe slot in, or someone moves across, and you can make it work. But even now, and this is probably a segue onto my second negative, is that, if Gyökeres was to get injured right now, there's no backup in, because Havertz and Jesus are still out, and we don't know when necessarily they're going to return. But on Gyökeres, hi, boy. Listen, bro, my enemies are watching. Yeah, listen, you man had to coerce me into this signing in the first place. Yeah, I'm not.
Look at you shooting Bale. I've got the screenshot from the Patreon where we're all doing the mass celebration, yeah? So if I'm going down, all you man are going down with me. You hear me? Like, I'm not having this.
Man's been the recon. Listen. I was bullied. It was peer pressure, man. It was peer pressure.
Listen, that Patreon was 5-man deep. All of you. I got the case files and all of you. I word to whack on it, man. I got the paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah, there's case files on everyone. I need to see more generally from him. I think if I can give him some leeway, obviously he you know, he's probably still building up fitness. Maybe he's not really been able to be rotated in. But I think the main thing is I struggle to see at times where he's creating separation. That is for me a potential worry, because I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, in Portugal, you looked like you were the Don Dada. You were bullying everyone, bro. You were bullying everyone. And listen, and we all referenced it, right? We all saw that Haaland go against Brentford the other day. My God, bro. He treated them like they were, you know, when you're younger, yeah, and man used to kick ball, it was like, say, like an under 11s game, but there was always someone who was just bigger than everyone else.
Yeah.
He just bullied everyone. Like, that's what it looks like sometimes when I'm watching Haaland. But when I saw Gyökeres get beaten up by Mavropanos on Saturday, I said, bruh, I said, it's looking tight. So I just need to, and it's not even now where there are chances that are being created for him as well. Like Newcastle game, he had a few. Olympiacos game, how he didn't bag, I don't know. Even at the weekend, I was like, he should have gotten on the end, especially the one from Rice as well. So he needs to proper after the international break. He needs to ramp up, and you know, we're going into a period where I don't want to denigrate like the teams we're playing, because Fulham, of course, that's a lot of trouble. Palace, of course, that's a lot of trouble. Burnley and Sunderland are looking like they're quite competitive in the league. But on paper, those are the four next league games. My guy, I'm going to need you to leave with something, bro. I'm going to need you to leave with something. I'm not asking you to be Haaland, because, cool, we all know that brother's in a league of his own. He's on an anomaly. But you need to be competing to be the best of the rest, bro. I can't lie to you. You have to be competing to be the best of the rest. So I think for me, if I was to grade his overall time so far, I'd probably say like a 4 or 5 out of 10. And maybe that's harsh, considering he's got 3 in 7 in the league, but in all comps it's 3 in 10. And even if you wanted to say that's 2 non-penalty goals in 10 as well, because I saw a man on the TL saying Saka should have given the penalty. I said, move, man, get your goals in open play, bro. Get your goals in open play. You forget this is Saka's club, bro. So my guy, you got to get out the mud. You got to get out the mud. So I think I just need to see more. I need to see more, and maybe we're going a bit too prematurely. But I feel like, especially when we watched and we did the tapes on him, there isn't a great deal in terms of layers to his game. So we kind of know what it's kind of, you know, like what you see is what you get with Gyökeres, isn't it? So we really have to bank on him delivering the goals, because it's not like an Ekitike where, you know, like, bro, this guy's going to do something else if he's not bagging. So I think the onus is put more on him to bag, because we know there's not much else to his game. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm conscious of the fact that I haven't actually been on our main pods in a few weeks. I've done like the Patreon, so I've given my unfiltered thoughts on Gyökeres on the Patreon, so they know how I stand. But as a defender of Gyökeres over Sesko in the summer, I think you're right. We definitely see more, and I've said it over and over. We definitely expect more. I think when you look at his performances, the ones that concern me most are the games where he's not getting shots off, like fundamentally, because for me, that is supposed to be like one of your strengths. You're averaging like over like three shots a game, I think, in Portugal, 3-4 shots a game. I need you to be a threat in that regard. And the second thing that you mentioned, or the other thing that you mentioned, was this physical separation. And that's the thing. I think that, so, you know, sometimes when I watch Gyökeres play, especially like when you look at the game against West Ham, like I get the impression that someone has sat him down and said, oh, like the Prem is bare physical, so you need to prove your point. Because it's almost like he's going out of his way to try and tussle with guys in a way that I don't think he actually needs to. Like, it's like he's trying to like demonstrate that, yeah, the Prem is like big and physical. You know, I need to like demonstrate in that way. And really, you don't need to, because if you look at his best, you know, attacking, you know, his attacking structures, or the way he likes to operate, you make more sense dropping, like, you know, to the flanks, getting and driving, or even if you're not going to drive with the ball, getting a bit of separation and getting into your acceleration phase, and then, you know, impacting way. Because if you look at the goal against Olympiacos, like the reason why he was able to body those defenders, because he's getting up ahead of steam, then shakes them out the way and then gets the shots up, as opposed to him having his back to goal and, you know, putting his elbows out and all that. Now, don't get me wrong, he's going to need to do that at times, but I think he's dedicating too much of his time just getting lost in those battles in a way I don't think he needs to. So I think those are the two things that stand out more than anything. If I'm going to quote unquote defend him, not that he needs defense. If you look at, for example, Isak, great striker, far better striker and all that. I am conscious of the guys who basically spent all summer waiting around for a move and how slow their seasons have started. And if you look, especially against United and his first couple of games, he just looked extremely sluggish. I think he's improved physically, but then you've got to the other sort of scale where, because he's our only striker, he's just been banging out 95 minutes. And he does have the capabilities to do the reprint speeds, but every person has a limit. So I think I'm conscious of that. But fundamentally, we need to see more, and I expect more, because this is a guy that, when we watch the tapes, two things that struck out is he gets shots off. I was so frustrated with guys like Jesus going through 90 minutes. You may see him in the box for 30 seconds across a whole 90-minute game. Your centre-backs are not feeling any impact here. Like, look at the game in Newcastle. He didn't score, but he was a threat all game. He was impact. He should have scored. That's the kind of threat level that I need from him. So out of those two, I need shots on goal, and I need you to stop worrying about tussling with centre back so much and actually sort of accentuate your own strengths. I think it's noticeable to see that Arteta has been very, very heavy on praise. I think he's done it as a way to protect him almost, because he knows there's a huge amount of expectation on a striker like this. But we need more, and I do expect more. And I think you mentioned the running games coming up. We're going to need, G, not G and A. I'm going to need G, because this.
I just need G, bro.
No A's. I need 4 G's only. And yeah, I expect better, but again, I am conscious of him coming in, and the things I've already mentioned in terms of his fitness and getting up to speed. But yeah, I think you mentioned Haaland. This is a reminder to people that Haaland is just different to everyone else. Like, I think even in my expectation, I expected more in terms of like Gyökeres getting up to top speed a little bit more. But again, I'm putting that down to his condition and so on. But listen, at some point you need to perform, and I still think there's enough time in the season for him to really. Of course, because we're still in that stage where it's at the beginning, isn't it? Because he hasn't hit like a consistent goal scorer run. There's going to be high focus on his actions, and like I said, the worst crime that Gyökeres has committed is going without a goal just before the international break. Because now we have 2 weeks of man sitting down and telling me that our other strikers are R9 and RVP reincarnated, and we both watched them. I can tell you they're not good players. They are good players. They have their uses. They can contribute well. I expect them to contribute when they come back, but they're not who you say they were. Otherwise, we would not have been crying out for a striker in the summer. So Gyökeres, we need more. I expect more, and I believe we'll get more.
So it's funny because we're segueing onto listeners' questions now. And the first one is sort of around that. Yonko Abs is saying, rank these strikers / false nines for movement in and around the box. Jesus, Gyökeres, Havertz, and Marino. God damn.
Yo, that is a interesting question. I know.
Hey, bro, I'm not going to lie, Marino might be near the top of the list.
This one's going to say he's minimum top 2.
Because I really do not like Marino as a player. However, whenever the ball is floated into the box, it's like the ball is a magnet to him.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, he's a good finisher as well, Marino. Funnily enough, like some of the finishes he's had, like the header he scored at Newcastle was a fantastic header. Incredible header. When I think back to, the finish against Real Madrid in the Champions League last season, which is very much understated because of what Rice did in that game, but no one talks about that. So, but he's quite an underrated finisher, especially like aerially. And that's another area we'd like to see Gyökeres trouble a bit more. So I don't really know if you have an answer in terms of you want to rank them, but yeah.
As long as Jesus is bottom of that pile, I don't mind the rest of the order you put them in. He does not care about scoring, knows he's good at it. In terms of movement, Havertz, I mean, that's his speciality, in it off the ball, anything away from the ball, Havertz tends to excel at. So yeah, it's an interesting collection of attackers we have. I'll say that.
It's funny because similar in terms of segue. Baitface Nate, he says to everyone other than German Dan, there seems to be a lot of contract movement amongst the squad. The latest rumor is circling around Havertz with either an extension or a pay rise. If you were Berta, what would you do? I mean, my guy, this brother earns like 280k per week, bro. He's legit the highest paid player at the club, bro. there's no way this brother can justify a pay. If we put Havertz on over 300k per week, you are.
Listen, if that happens, then Saka's going
are.
to ask for a stadium piece when we do the rebuild, because
bro,
that is a whole lot.
If we put him on over 300k per week, Islington Council are going to be asking for the bag, for the bag. So
it's that thing where obviously Havertz is a useful player, but it's just relative to his expenditure, you can't really argue otherwise. And that's what sometimes I think people think, that I just hate this guy's guts. Don't get me wrong, there's times when I've watched it and I've just been, head loss. But I do appreciate what he can bring. But bringing it at like 400k a week, Bayern, come grab your guy and we'll reinvest elsewhere. And same for Gyökeres, by the way. Like in a year's time or two, if it's not working out, I got no problem moving on for these guys. Like I need to get to a parade by any means necessary. So if you're impeding that and we can reinvest elsewhere, got a cut, man.
Okay, DA_Adigun says, what would you say Arsenal's biggest weakness is at the moment, and how do we solve it this season? We seem like a fairly complete team at the moment. Obviously, we touched on a couple of the negatives, maybe around injuries and certain players not performing. So I think for me, the biggest uplift I always said was how we can improve in open play chance creation will determine the level we can potentially go to this season. So we know how strong we are defensively, but our ability to attack and score well will dictate the ceiling of the team. So at the moment, I'm starting to see some positive uptrends, especially in terms of the creation. So if that continues or remains at a good level, then I won't really have anything else to say. Even though you could argue, maybe certain individuals in the squad you could upgrade on, but generally what we have is good enough to achieve our objectives. Do you know what I mean? So you could say, I'd prefer this person, I prefer this person. But even with maybe some of the individuals, they're still good enough to contribute to where we want to go. So, I don't really, like I said, if you had asked me like the last international break, it would have been around open play chance creation for sure. But I've seen positive signs on that. So, this question's funny. All right, cool. Because okay, cool. Count Dracula says Arsenal fans are cooking up a Havertz versus Gyökeres civil war on the TLs. He said, which side are you on and why? And what are some other historical scuffles you've partaken in? So he's named Wilshere versus Ramsey.
Listen, I was on the front line of Wilshere versus Ramsey, man. I was a Wilshere stan. Okay. Ramsey, listen.
So you're with me, Wilshere versus Ramsey. Cesc versus Ozil. Was that a big thing?
It was more in terms of like who was like a great Emirates legend angle, as opposed to it being like direct.
Well, as an individual, I think Cesc is more of a rat, but I'll be honest with you. No, we have to keep it a buck here. But in terms of actually what I've seen watching Arsenal, like he's probably for me the best midfielder outside of Vieira I've seen play for Arsenal generally. And he was quite unfortunate that the teams he played in, because he played in legit the broke boy era of Arsenal in it. But I enjoyed watching Fabregas. I can't lie to you. I loved watching Cesc. So
what I say about Cesc is, if he was an honourable guy, I would be doing propaganda for him being like top midfielder in Premier League history. But when I'm scrolling the timeline and I see guys say that David Silva was miles clear, I just air it, because that's what you deserve for being the man that you were when you went on strike.
No, I can't lie. I have to fight that one because I low-key have an agenda against David Silva, even though he's a good player.
I do have an agenda against Silva as well. But listen, what Cesc did, you cannot erase that from human life. So when I see guys on the timeline talk about Cesc being our new manager, you don't understand, like, as an institution, like, our rep is in the mud if we let that guy walk in through the front door. And he's only walking through the front door if he gets on both his knees in front of the Emirates pause and he prays for forgiveness, right? Let himself get flogged through the streets before he ever takes that manager job, because what he did was unforgivable on like a million different levels of life. So that's how I see Cesc. So Ozil, you're my guy. You came when we needed you. We won trophies and you left, in suboptimum terms. But I appreciate a guy who came and wanted to stay, as opposed to a guy who left and betrayed Father Wenger's Can't respect that one.
I hear you. This one's odd because I don't remember anyone taking side. Like everyone pretty much loved both of them. They're saying Saka versus ESR. I was like, but they were boys. Like no one really. I said that's not a thing. Like because they came through together. Like I thought everyone was. I don't think anyone ever took a side, Saka ESR. Most people wanted them both to. It's just ESR, was eating too much jollof and he's fallen by the wayside now. So
listen. Anytime he sees £7 off on Deliveroo, Smith Rowe is there. That was his main thing.
Bro, that Angel Bakeries, the man's picking up El Agoye and all of that, bro. And just, hey, listen, I lost to that one, bro. I
can't believe a man sat down and Sky Sports used to talk about, I love the chicken wings from Nando's.
I'm like, bro, you're embarrassing me in front of my mates, bro. Like, come on, bro. Come on.
Know your audience, bro.
Have some self-awareness, bro. God damn. Okay. This one is a recent one, and it's interesting because we had it in the group chat as well. But it's not really like, and like some of the others were like the Wilshere Ramsey was animosity. Like MLS Calafiori is not really one stooped on animosity. It's more that we have two very good players here, two very, very good players. They do different things, they do different stuff, but they're both good in their own right. Now, obviously, a lot of last season, Calafiori was injured. And we saw MLS grow in as the season went, and he was very, very, very good. So much so, obviously, he's still getting picked for England now, even though he's not been playing as much recently. But for me, I would probably have Calafiori alongside Timber as probably, and maybe Zubamendi just behind as the best Arsenal players so far this season. I think they've been top. I'll be real with you. Even so much so, like, because Calafiori's, I was at the game on Saturday against West Ham, and he does a lot of Zinchenko stuff, right? He does a lot of like rolling inside, and you don't look it because he's like, but my man is so techie, bro. There was one team here that came in, the shot, and this is kind of because I was arguing with people the other day about when they're doing the Calafiori Timber for centre backs bullshit. I was like, look at where they are on the pitch, bro. You're telling me about. So even the one, do you remember in the first half where Calafiori's slap the post? I'm like, Timber is in the box. Calafiori is at the edge of the box, bro. I'm like, yeah, brazy, very, very techie. I like both of them. And bearing in mind, we've used more of a double pivot so far this season. And I'm hoping soon, especially bearing in mind Hincapié, who we've not really seen, is here now. I'm hoping that over the next 12, 18 months, we start to see MLS's midfield transition. And I'm hoping maybe like you get rid of Norgard or Marino, whoever, and MLS gets some more minutes there. So that's kind of how I'm hoping that transition takes over in. But I think I'm not really on either side with this because I like both players. Like generally like both players. I'm more a Halen stan. So if you were to force me to pick, I would choose MLS because I stand the Halen guys. But I don't dislike Cala. In fact, my frustration with Cala, especially last season, was like, brother, stay fit. Because he's another one, actually, funnily enough, in the final third. I can trust Cala to make something happen, So yeah.
He was missed when we had our striker, injuries because he's a guy who can actually contribute in the final third.
Like, he can score, bro. You can just score. That's the thing. He always looks likely to score. So well, and he's already scored this season. So were you going to say something?
No, I was going to say, we mentioned Civil Wars. I just need to give another shout out again to Jack Wilshere, Aaron Ramsey. Listen, that was 10 years of my life, I was going back and forth telling man that Wilshere was the truth and Ramsey was just an obstacle in his path.
I'm still ready to fight that, bro. Every time it comes up in the chat with Raw, and I'm ready to fight, bro.
Listen, you know when it was Norwich and Cardiff last season, I was super locked into that game. Listen, Norwich came out with a W. That was my weekend sorted, man. Honestly,
I think in our chat, it's just Ruin and Coops, bro. Everyone else is Team Wilshere, bro. Everyone else is Wilshere. So yeah, that man, I got to fight it all the time, bro. Do you know what? I like that question a lot. Arsenal fan civil wars are too funny, bro. When they do it against each other. So okay, oh god, not again. Steno Blackstenius. Thankfully, he's not asked that Adeyemi question this week. But he says, who is one player you can never forgive playing for this club? For me, it's Almunia because I was in 09 and looking back at old games, that guy was a calamity of the keeper and he had spikes as well. Idiot keeper. To be fair, I did not like that brother. And I blame him I can't really blame him for the Champions League final 06 because Lehmann got himself sent off, but he came on and he's just, brother, that guy could never save anything, bro. Like, he's just a pointless goalkeeper. I never saw the point in him being here.
Listen, one of the things that I have beef about Wenger is he made bare broke guys millionaires for no reason.
Too many.
Someone's going to live a comfortable rest of his life, despite the crimes he committed in goal for us.
Despite the pain he caused me, bro. Yeah, I don't know, man. I never liked Bentner. I'll be real with you. I always had an irrational dislike for him, bro. I never really took to him, bro. And Denilson as well. I never really liked Denilson either.
You know, with Denilson, he's another one because I remember he did a sit-down interview like 5 years into his Arsenal career talking about, I may need to leave to win trophies. Like, brother, you are the reason we are not winning trophies. You have no right to talk like that, bro. You have no right to talk like that. Cesc is carrying you in that midfield right now, bro. I couldn't believe the audacity on some of these guys. So Wenger, you made some broke guys millionaires for no reason. And there's a few that I strongly dislike, definitely.
Okay. Sam E _91 says 3 Arsenal players to help Nigeria qualify for the World Cup. Bro, you got to choose the Niger boys that are here. Saka, Eze, and Noni. Just take them in it, bro. Bro, if you put Saka, Eze, and Noni into the team, they'll qualify for the World Cup, bro. Simple. That country has disgraced themselves, bro.
I need to put a call into Dr. Umar actually and get him to have a sit down with Saka. You need to get in touch with your motherland, man. We need you.
Bro. For them to hold him hostage at an airport, please, man. I beg. Let my boy stay in England in peace, bro. I beg, man. We don't need him there, bro. Listen. All right, cool. The North Bank says, what needs to happen over 90 minutes for you to say Arsenal outplayed or dominated an opponent? For what we've been doing recently, I'd say, is how our classes dominate or outplay. You know, a lot of the frustration I had, you know, in the last international break was we're having a lot of possession, but, you know, sometimes it's very sterile, very U-shaped. It's not very penetrative. How many clear-cut chances are we creating? How many saves is the goalkeeper having to make? So those are the sort of metrics I use to determine domination and outplaying by. So, you know, clear-cut chances created, how many shots are you having? How many saves is the goalkeeper having to making? That's kind of it for me. And I've seen more of that recently, man. So as long as we keep that up, I will be happy. Okay. We'll end with this one then. King Keshi 13 says, when we have a fully fit squad, what do you think Arteta sees as his strongest 11? For example, if we were playing a home game versus the bottom 10, and on the other hand, an away game against a top 6 club. It's interesting. So do you want to go with the home game against a bottom 10 club?
Yeah, so I think Raya, the 2 centre backs are a given. Against like a bottom 6 club, maybe he might go for Ben White at right back just for the overlap and being able to stretch the opposition fullbacks a bit wider to create spaces in the middle. Left back, I think that's really a toss-up between MLS and Calafiori. Again, we know about Calafiori's sort of free roles, but again, MLS, he's able to. In midfield, I do think we will see more of like Rice, Erdegaard, Eze against 1-6 types. Nothing wrong with Zubimendi in that regard, but you can kind of see what he's attempting with that midfield construction. And then I think Saka, Gyökeres, and left wing would actually be interesting. I assume Trossard because that's what he's done so far, and Trossard has that in front of goal ability.
So let me ask. So if Noni was fit, do you think he would start? Bearing in mind, if I was to give you the first home game of the season against Leeds, Noni did start on the left with Saka, and both Trossard and Martinelli were on the bench. So I don't know. I'm just.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm just thinking again. I think because of Noni's injury, it's probably skewed my thoughts as well because he's kind of been out of mind. But yeah, when you put it like that, it makes sense to have Trossard in a sub role because that's what he excels. So yeah, I'd probably actually say Madueke on the left, Saka on the right, Gyökeres up front. And then for like the quote unquote big games, I think you definitely see Timber come in at right back. I think Calafiori is kept at left back because I think it provides that defensive, offensive.
I think the biggest. Do you know what I actually think the biggest difference is between him and MLS? Right, Calafiori 6'3". I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like the aerial threat, whereas like MLS is how tall? Like I don't know how tall.
5'10". Yeah,
5'10". Right. So Calafiori is another aerial threat, right? So it's just another way, another potent weapon for Arsenal to have in the box as well. And we saw that at Old Trafford, right? So I think that's probably what skews it. If MLS was 6'3", I think it. No.
Team sheet.
Listen.
Yeah.
So I think, Kala, I'd go Zubi Rice and then Ødegaard, Saka, Eze behind Gyökeres. Oh boy, it might be Havertz, boy.
We said strongest lineup in it. I think we'll definitely see the 4-4-2 Havertz Gyökeres iteration at some point. I just don't think it'll be like starting.
So when you say that, because I've seen a few people say that, but I'm like, if you're planning to play Havertz, does that mean you're dropping the captain? Because that's what I'm trying to understand.
No, I think we'll see variations where it's even like a Zubimendi Ødegaard midfield. But this is why I say I don't see it as like a starting lineup. I see it as like a chasing the game sort of game state.
Fair. Well, yeah, and to be fair, that makes sense because you've seen sort of with Marino when he sort of goes up top with sort of Gyökeres as well. So okay, I understand that. So if you're dropping because remember when we were chasing the game against Newcastle, we took off Zubi, we moved Ødegaard deeper, sort of next to Rice, and then we had I don't even know what it looked like because Eze was floating about somewhere. Marino was in there with Gyökeres, and he had Martinelli. I know he had Martinelli and Trossard. So Marino, I don't even know, but I sort of understand what you're saying. Sort of like a 4-4-2-ish, like where you have and I get it because having another aerial threat kind of takes away the attention from Gyökeres a bit as well. So yeah.
And I think we will see Rice and Zubimendi like a 4-2-2-2, where you see Rice and Zubimendi as the midfield two. You have Saka and Eze as the wide forwards, and then you've got Gyökeres and Havertz, Gyökeres and Jesus. Insert whoever to dovetail with Gyökeres. Basically, I do see us doing that, and it's not necessarily a matter of dropping Ødegaard because we've seen that he's been out of the team anyway. So I think we will see variations.
And I think basically based on what we've said as well, you've seen the flexibility, and I think that is probably what's going to make Arsenal harder to mark and harder to predict because they're doing different things every game. Like against Newcastle was like a double pivot, narrow sort of 4-2-3-1. We started with West Ham with like a 4-3-3 with Rice, 2 8s high, which forced the wingers wide, and so it becomes a bit unpredictable. And I always feel like when we play with a double pivot, it's kind of like the fullbacks are a bit more traditional where they stay on the outside a bit more whereas when we play with 4-3-3 now with just 1-6, the wingers sort of come inside and underlap a lot, right? If you remember the West Ham game, how many times second goal, the Zubi to Timber, he was the one in the half space as well. And it reminds me a bit of nowhere near not as good, but I always think of like PSG. I think the dynamism that Hakimi and Mendes offer because they go inside, they go outside. It's so difficult and unpredictable. And I think those are, so I will give props to Arteta for that as well, because that's a new tactical layer. We're trying to just evolve and just have different ways of playing. And that will hopefully continue to make us a bit more unpredictable to stop. So, but all right, we've gone for almost an hour. So I think we'll leave it there. Khalil, thank you very much for joining me. Listeners, thank you very much for joining us. Don't say we're not giving you content, boy. Giving you already a Patreon this week. You got another one coming on Friday, giving you a main pod today. Listen, I better appreciate it, right? But let's leave it there. Khalil, thank you for joining me. Listeners, we're going to catch you on the flip side. Peace.
Peace.
Yo. When I spit bars in a rave, man, I go hard, last stand.